And welcome everybody to the first ever Atavus Washington High School football 7-versus-7 state championship here at Robbinswood Park here in Bellevue. Beautiful day for it. Hey, today's event's going to feature 16 teams from the state of Washington, including defending 4A state champions Vancouver Union and defending 3A state champions Sammamish is Eastside Catholic. And should be a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of great college recruits here. 14 other teams are going to be here as well. Everett, Sarch, Bishop Murphy, and Tacoma's Lincoln High School, Rainier Beach, Timberline, Spanaway, a lot of great teams, a lot of great college recruits, and we are lucky to have with us to help us source out all these college recruits, Brandon Huffman from 24/7 Sports and Jake Heaps from ESPN 710 AM. And, hey, welcome, gentlemen, and 7-on-7 football, a lot of good high school football players playing today, and should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating to see how far 7-on-7's come. You know, Jake here to my right was in the very first national 7-on-7 tournament that was held in Las Vegas in 2008.
That's right.
And then 11 years later, the first time a team from the state of Washington ever won that tournament was FSP, and FSP is one of the hosts of today's tournament. So it's kind of funny to see the guy who really put Washington 7-on-7 on the map to my right, Jake, and now all these players that have continued that.
Well, I've been calling high school football for a long, long time. It's my first chance to cover the 7-on-7. A little bit different than you would see in a normal high school game. A lot of skilled players out there.
Yeah, this is something where it's more of an offensive drill for the quarterback and the skill positions. You're not incorporating the offensive line into this. So this is a great opportunity for high school teams to really gain that chemistry. This is the starting point for them. Spring football has just started, so you're seeing teams right now not necessarily at their best. They're using this as an opportunity to scrimmage, compete against other teams. Coaches are evaluating their players and also evaluating where they currently are at in the offseason, and what they need to improve on. So this is a lot of fun watching these guys compete. Tons of talent out here, great quarterbacks, great skill position players on both sides of the ball. So it's going to be a fun one to watch over the course of the day.
Now, are the high school coaches, the head coaches, are they allowed to be the coach for the 7-on-7?
Yes, because it is during the spring practice period, the high school coaches are able to be out here. So this is a huge opportunity for the kids to get great reps in competition, but also to be evaluated by their high school football coaches. And for the high school football coaches, this is a great opportunity for them to run their schemes, maybe try some new things that they were working on, developing in the offseason, see where they're at and what they need to improve on moving forward.
And, there's a lot of great teams out here. Brandon, a lot of good college recruits are playing today.
Yeah, one of the cool things, like Jake said, you get to see a lot of guys that are getting their first chance maybe to play some varsity snaps, some guys that have been four-year varsity stars. The game going on right in front of us, you got Graham Kapowson and Eastside Catholic. Graham Kapowson's replacing their four-year starter quarterback Dylan Morris. Meanwhile, Eastside Catholic has Michael Franklin back, who led him to a state championship, but they also got a quarterback that transferred in from Punahou High School in Hawaii. So even though there's all this talent, you still got a couple of quarterback controversies here, but it makes it easier when you're an Eastside Catholic and you got a guy like JT Tuamala, who's the number one ranked prospect in the country in the 2021 class. You've got G. Scott, who's a top 10 receiver nationally, committed to Ohio State. DJ Rogers is a top 5 tight end nationally, who's got about 30 offers. Sam Adams is a top 100 player. He just narrowed his 40-plus offers down to 6. Aiden Hector, a 4-star corner, and that's just the 2020. And one of the 2021 guys, Eastside Catholic, is absolutely loaded.
I was just going to say, I was looking at your article, and seems like 6 or 7 college recruits on that Eastside Catholic team, and they have to be a favorite to go to the Tacoma Dome.
Yeah, I think it's kind of expected that they'll be returning to Tacoma. When 2 years ago, when they were undefeated number 1 and then were upset in the quarterfinals, their only loss they suffered all year, but it was a stunning upset that they suffered at Garfield. So last year, they were relentless against Washington teams. Lost their opener to Oaks Christian out in Southern California. They didn't lose a game the rest of the year, and I think now they did lose a couple of guys at graduation, but they returned that strong core nucleus. And these are just the 7-on-7 guys we're talking about. They've got some outstanding offensive and defensive linemen as well, and that's what you don't get to see in 7-on-7 is those big boys up front, but Eastside Catholic has plenty of them.
Well, it's kind of the 7-on-7 as far as just a game. It's fast, almost like playing that pickup game in the backyard on maybe Thanksgiving Day, right?
Right, yeah. This is also a really good opportunity for quarterbacks to get in a rhythm, to read coverages, to get a feel for their concepts and footwork and timing and all of that. And so you're gonna see some pretty good quarterbacks out here today. I think the headliner is Kennedy Catholic's quarterback Sam Heward, son of Damon Heward. He's lit up the high school football scene since he's come on as a freshman, now a junior. Very mature for his age, an extremely hard worker. They've got a very fun group of talent on the offensive side of the ball that will be full of fireworks when they get out here with Sheldon Cross and their air raid system. Some other guys to really keep an eye on. Brandon Huffman mentioned Michael Franklin from Eastside Catholic. You've got Caden Filer from Lincoln. They've got a really nice air raid system, the lefty from Lincoln. And then you look at Archbishop Murphy, an interesting prospect in Victor Gabalis. He's 6'3", 210 pounds, and hasn't gotten a whole lot of passing reps at Archbishop Murphy, but he is a guy who's had multiple offers so far and is going to be one that colleges are going to pay attention to, has a huge arm, and this is a type of setting that will be massive for him. And then there's a couple guys unknown. C.J. Jordan, another one, Union High School, he has 15 offers as of right now, and a couple guys that are kind of under the radar, or guys that are emerging is Stillcomb High School, Chance McDonald, who's replacing J.J. Lemming, who ended up going to Central Washington. And then you've got Kentwood, who has a quarterback in Jackson Proctor, who I believe will be one of the rising stars in the 2021 class. Great athlete. And then finally, the last one here that I think is worth taking note of is over here at GK. There's an interesting kid here in Nate Thomas. So far, watching the early set of these games going on, he's very raw, but replacing Dylan Morris is going to be a really tough task to do. And converted receiver, playing quarterback, but he spins the ball pretty well. So it'll be interesting to see how these guys develop and how they're able to perform over the course of the day.
You always hear about quarterbacks, especially in the professional level, as the quarterback and the receivers kind of developing a rapport. And that starts here in the spring, doesn't it? In spring practice.
Absolutely. This is where it all starts, and hopefully that they've been – a lot of these kids now, I mean, the scape of this landscape has really changed. When I was coming through, 7-on-7 was just like Brandon said, we were the first one to do a national 7-on-7 tournament, and now these kids are playing 7-on-7, training year-round. So these kids are much more advanced in terms of where they are at in their off-season. But as a team, this is the starting point, and this is where they really get things moving and as they go on their road to hopefully get to the Tacoma Dome.
Well, in the 7-on-7 game, do you see this? I heard maybe some talk that in the lower levels for the younger players in Pee Wee football, is that something that maybe that might start developing there and replacing tackle for the young kids?
I think so. I mean, flag is a huge piece to development right now, and I think 7-on-7 is that natural piece for younger kids to avoid contact but still get a rhythm and feel for the game. I mean, Brandon, you've seen this thing evolve over your years. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you went from a few years ago where it was just the juniors and the seniors to be that were playing on 7 to now you have 3rd and 4th graders doing traveling tournaments. And I think with the shift into youth football being more of the flag variety, of the touch variety before any unnecessary hits until they get to high school, you're going to see the continued rise of 7-on-7 at the lower levels. And I think that that's what's really allowing the state of Washington, frankly, to really be a state that's respected on the national scope, because these guys have been playing for 7-on-7 football for 6, 7, 8 years. So a lot of those guys have now been doing this year-round, and so the passing game becomes easier when they get to high school because they've been throwing the ball around for the entire year, 5, 6, 7 years before they even get to high school. And so I think you're going to continue to see more of a 7-on-7 presence in youth football, and especially as there's national events for these guys to actually play for something.
All right. Well, hey, thank Brandon. We're going to take a quick break here, and we'll come back with more of our pregame show. You are watching the Washington High School Football 7 versus 7 state championship here on STSPN.
What's our game, Lincoln and Rainier Beach, right?
Looks like I'm going to be able to call this better sitting down. Now, Spike, you want this back?
Yeah, you just lay it in the box. Because I'm sure we're going to need it for somebody.
Here's two other rosters.
What's this for?
The other rosters.
Oh, for later today?
Yeah, yeah. How many more minutes do we have?
About 8.
by the end of the day.
No.
Pardon?
I was getting so annoyed with people, like, especially the players.
You ready to start talking?
Yeah. Hold on just a sec.
You have number one.
Test.
Your head
Test.
down.
I can't hear
Your
myself.
head down.
Test.
You're number two.
Okay.
Do the other one.
Test. Now I can hear myself. Yep, I'm good. And welcome back to the first ever Atavus Washington High School football 7-versus-7 state championships here at Robbinswood Park in Bellevue. You're watching on STSPN. Should be a lot of fun. 16 teams are competing today. Some of the best teams in the state in the 4A and 3A. Union and Eastside Catholic are going to be playing Archbishop Murphy. Also Rainier Beach, Timberline, Lacey. A lot of the schools, Graham-Kapowson, Kentwood, Enumclaw. Event is loaded with the top high school prospects. 12 of the top 14 skilled prospects in the state in the class of the 2020. 7 of the top 8 skilled prospects of the class of 21. And 4 skilled prospects with offers in the class of 22 are going to be playing today. Now, the game coming up we are going to be watching is going to be Lincoln versus Rainier Beach. Will be the first one that we are going to be calling. And should be fun. This is 7-on-7 football. Games last 25 minutes. Clock never stops. Referees will keep the official score and time on the field. No pads, but there are soft helmets. And the offense starts on the 40. The quarterback picks up the ball and be off the tee. And we are about ready to go here. And team's making noise. Here's a snap, and or at least the ball off the tee, and a pass out, a little flare pass, and that goes out, I believe, to number 6. And we don't have set rosters. I don't have a number 6 on my roster, but a completed pass. So you watch, again, the quarterback takes it off the tee, throw, long pass down the way, and it's going to be incomplete. And trying to get to that one was number 80. And with us on the, help me do some color here, sort things out, Brandon Huffman from 24/7 Sports. Welcome, sir.
Hey, good to be here.
Good to be here. Now, we've got 2 teams, Lincoln and Rainier Beach. And which team is which here?
So we got Lincoln's got the ball right now. They're wearing the white jerseys with the black lining, and then Rainier Beach is wearing the black jerseys with the white lining. And this is a grudge match. Rainier Beach knocked Lincoln out of the playoffs last year in the 3A state playoffs. So this is a fascinating game to come out of the gates with.
And another completed pass. You have 3 downs to make a first down. And there is the quarterback, number 6, and that is Caden Filer. Pass incomplete. Filer graduates this year, a senior. And do we know where he's heading?
He's still waiting for that first offer. He's heading into his 3rd year as a starter for the Abes. It was an all-county selection, all-area selection last year for Lincoln. He's had a great offseason on the 7-on-7 circuit and a lot of talent, even though they lost 2 guys to graduation that were key. Jaden Simon headed to Colorado, Giovanni White to Georgetown. They got a transfer in, Donovan Clark, who is a 3-star corner from Sumner. And they got a top 50 prospect in the 2021 class, Julian Simon, who you see there in the slot. Very similar to Miles Jack, can play running back, can play linebacker, one of the elite 2A players in the country. So there's still a lot of talent there at Lincoln.
All right, here comes Caden looking to pass over the middle, almost intercepted. And getting to that, number 13, and that would be Kareem Butler for Lincoln.
And Rainier Beach, they were hit hard by graduation and transfers. Their presumed quarterback this year, Ari Patu, transferred down to Folsom, moved down to Sacramento, and transferred to Folsom High School. His older brother, Oren, is headed to Cal. He's actually at Cal early in Raleigh. They graduated him. On their offensive line, Nate Caleppo. But they have 2 very intriguing sophomores to be. You'll see up top, number 4, Jalen Green. He is a 2022 receiver. Just got his first offer yesterday from Nevada. And then Tyrone Taylor, who's their slot receiver. You see him right next to him. He's about 5'6", 5'7". He was the national champion as an 8th grader in the 100 and the 200.
Wow.
Already had an offer from Florida before he even started high school for football.
That is nice. All right, here comes Lincoln. And pass incomplete. It's trying to see the number of the quarterback.
Yeah, that's
there for
Trey Morris for Rainier Beach in at quarterback now. I know these black and white jerseys and white and black jerseys are making it a little bit difficult.
Yeah, it is a little bit tough. It seems to be the trend we've been noticing in high school football. It's not a broadcaster's friend with dark numbers on a dark jersey.
And these numbers with an angle, and half of it's shaded, half of it's not.
And I got 50-plus-year-old eyes at trying to decipher this.
Mine are just a little bit younger, but still not doing me any favors.
There's a long pass downfield, and this one is going to be broken up. Nice pass. And we've got a player shaken up. This is touch football, but there is some contact, especially going up for loose balls, I've noticed.
Yeah, in the last 4 or 5 years, you see these soft shell helmets that these guys are wearing from Game Breaker helmets, and it's to try to prevent as many head injuries as you can when these guys aren't in full pads. But the reality is, they're soft shell. They're not able to take a lot of contact. But really where the contact hurts is these guys in their shoulders and their arms, because those are not padded at all. And so these guys, big body guys, colliding with each other at full speed, there's some bones that end up broken on occasion.
And there is a pass down the middle, and that one, Trey backs up and into the officials' tent, and got a little bit of interference there from the back tent, but pass incomplete.
When there's no pass rush, you just count on the tent to be what distracts the quarterback.
Now, supposedly, I was reading rules, and I'm not quite sure how these rules apply. I think you have 4 seconds to throw the ball.
Yeah, you see those tees that are out there. If you're watching, you see those tees that the quarterbacks are taking the ball off. That sets off a timer. When the ball comes off the tee, it counts down to 4, and then it has a very loud, obnoxious beep that lets the referee know that time is up. So if the ball's still in the quarterback's hands, it's an incompletion, and then the pass and the down is over.
And everybody is a receiver. All right, here's the snap. Looking to go over the middle and almost intercepted. So both teams' defenses play pretty tough here. Now, we've been talking a little bit about the offensive players, but there's some good defensive players out here as well, huh?
Yeah, so, with Lincoln, you've got the return of Julian Simon, who can play the linebacker. You'll see him in there playing receiver, but he's a linebacker. He's one of the best linebackers in the country. Jeremiah Noisi, number 10 right here, just transferred in from Federal Way. Donovan Clark, who got a little bit shaken up, breaking up a pass in the end zone. One of the top corners in the state of Washington. He came over from Sumner High School this offseason, moved to Tacoma. He's got about 4 or 5 Pac-12 offers and some other schools that could be adding to that mix as they get a chance to see him. So with Donovan Clark at corner, and then you got Jalen Clark, who can play really 3 positions. He can be an outside linebacker, he can play safety, he can play corner, and he'll really do it all for the A's, a guy that I think has had as good of a spring as anybody in the state of Washington.
So with these teams, everybody is a receiver, and you've got some big body types. I imagine you got some running backs and tight ends and wide receivers all out there, right?
Oh, yeah. So when you look at teams like this, they're going to have kind of your smaller speed guys in the slot, maybe your all-purpose back, maybe your slot receiver. Then you're going to line up your big receivers outside, and you might put another tight end on the other side of the slot and try to draw a linebacker to cover him, who is going to probably have a little bit of a size disadvantage and probably isn't going to have the athleticism. And that's where you see these teams that really flourish in offense is they've got a nice wide range and mix and match of body sizes for their receivers and guys that make plays either in the short and intermediate routes or the guys that are able to go deep.
And defensively, you've got some linebackers and, of course, cornerbacks and safeties all out there.
That's always the hard part when you have linebackers that are used to hitting. It's trying to tell them be aggressive but don't be stupid. And these guys are used to being physical, and then you got to tell them, hey, you just got to touch. They're not used to touching. I mean, the linebackers are usually the guys that are known for hitting, and so now they've got to contain themselves. So every once in a while you might see a linebacker get a little bit extra rough, and usually it's against a smaller running back who goes flying about 10 feet, and all the linebackers trying to do is just trying to stop him. But that's where so much this becomes about developing smarts in football. It's if you know you can't do it, don't go past the line. Stay at the line, get right up to it, but don't go past the line. And that's usually where you see the teams that are winning these teams consistently. They don't make dumb decisions.
And you see, you see it in the pro ranks, and I'm sure college ranks as well. Is I think coaches are looking for that intelligent player that's going to make smart decisions. It doesn't do any good to have somebody who's an outstanding athlete, but if they're always, causing you a 15-yard penalty, it's just not going to work.
No, and that's why you want guys that make good decisions. You can have the best athletes in the world, but if they're not making good decisions, it's not going to win you any ball games. And so that's what's great about 7-on-7 is if you have really good coaching, really good technically sound players, really well-disciplined players, you can overcome the talent gap that may exist between you and your opponent if you're just smartly picking them apart underneath, getting them frustrated and getting them to play past what the rules allow. And that's where you see some of these teams that may not have the overwhelming talent compete and stay in these tournaments a lot longer than maybe the talent should allow them to. And there's your hit.
It was just a touch.
Just a touch. You notice he looked like, hey, no big deal, coach.
It was a nice little stiff arm that stopped the forward momentum, and down he went.
And that's a 230-pound inside linebacker going against about a 150-pound slot, and gravity took over.
So how early did these teams start practicing and really working on the 7-on-7? So
a lot of these guys have been working together in the offseason. A lot of it is voluntary workouts they're doing, but a lot of these players have played travel 7-on-7 in the offseason with each other, whether it's for FSP, whether it's for Air, whether it's for Tacoma Attack or Seattle Knights. They have been throwing the ball to each other basically since December. Their season may have ended in November, and they were right in off-season workouts in December, throwing routes on air, throwing just general passing, and then you get into the 7-on-7 circuit in January. So a lot of these guys, their offseason was about a 2 or 3 week window in November into December, and now they're back with their team with spring football starting last week. Now they're back with their actual team, but their rhythm is already there because they've been throwing to each other all offseason.
And it's got to be nice, develop that in its non-contact, so you're not getting beat up all year long.
No, and that's why I think you get a lot of guys that really like 7-on-7 because there's going to be plenty of tread left on the tires, and you don't want to overwork yourself. Some of these quarterbacks now, I will say that they're kind of the opposite, and they've been throwing the ball so much at so many tournaments, plus going to camps where they're trying to audition for scholarships, that they get to about June and their coaches finally just say, shut it down. We need you healthy in August when we start fall camp. I don't want you throwing for the next 6 weeks, not even to stay sharp. You need to rest that shoulder. But the majority of these other guys, because there's not a lot of hitting in 7-on-7, or at least there's not allowed to be a lot of hitting, they're really pretty fresh by the time they get to spring football in June, which I love the fact that Washington's one of the few states in the United States that does padded spring football.
It is kind of nice to get some contact. I was going to say, you've got all the skill players out here, but what do the big guys do?
Most of them are sleeping in. Many of them right now are probably having a nice big Sunday brunch. You'll still see a few of them, and a lot of them will come out and support their team. Some will just say, hey, coach, let me get some reps as a receiver, and let me go out and split me out wide and play some tight end. But the majority of those guys are just sitting back, relaxing, and waiting to get back to practice tomorrow where they get to hit each other again.
Well, we've seen a lot of specialization in middle school and high school sports and in soccer, baseball, softball, where they're select leagues where these kids are playing all year long, and this is kind of that select league for football, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is, and that's what you're seeing a real kind of lean to it. Football was always that one sport where you had to play for your high school team, and that was it. That was the only option. And now you're seeing a lot more of these select teams, and the crazy thing is, a lot of people say, well, these guys are playing football too much. Most of these guys are still playing multiple sports for their school. Most of these guys that are the top football recruits in the country, they're the best athletes on their campus. They're playing basketball. They're playing baseball. They're running track. They're wrestling. JT Tuimoloau, who's the number one 2021 player in the country, has been a 2-year starter at power forward for Eastside Catholic. He plays for Seattle Rotary, the top AAU team in Washington. And, he's averaged a double-double in basketball. And this is a guy who hasn't even focused on football, and he's the number one player in the country. So people think these guys are playing football year-round. Yeah, but they're still doing other sports. But this is giving them an avenue to play football more than just outside the spring football window or outside the fall season.
And not only is it good for the players, but I got to say, just as a spectator here watching, I've enjoyed this. Now, I'm sorry we haven't been able to call out a lot of numbers, but just the fact that hard to see.
Yeah, hard to see. These numbers aren't the most visible from far away, and when you guys got the helmets on, you can't really see faces either.
So now, Rainier Beach. That is Rainier Beach, isn't it?
That was Rainier Beach, yep.
Completes a pass. And, again, I can't tell if that's a 6 or an 8, so it was just completed. So, but we're going to be here all day long. Come on out. The games are short, 25 minutes, and we're going to see a lot of really good talent.
And I can assure you, I've been to a lot of 7-on-7 tournaments this spring. This is the best weather by far we have had for a 7-on-7 tournament in the entire Northwest. There were some that were done during snowstorms.
Well, that's football weather there.
Oh, beautiful football weather. Nothing like February freezing under snow at a 7-on-7 tournament. But you get some of those tournaments in the Northwest, you'll have all four seasons on one Sunday.
Yep. It's just beautiful. I'd say about 70 degrees, a little bit of a breeze, so it's not too hot. And come out, should be a lot of good football to watch. Now, it was a big first down there for Rainier Beach. Let's see if we can get our first touchdown going on. And in and out of the hands.
Almost had a touchdown or an interception on that play.
One of the things with being a quarterback, especially I've seen it with young quarterbacks in high school level, usually it's your starting varsity, but he's maybe a sophomore or freshman, sophomore quarterback. They want to throw it hard. They want to impress everybody. I can throw it hard and throw it far. But a lot of times, you get a little more experience. It's at getting that touch. Like that right there, and is a touchdown.
And that's what you want to see from your quarterback who's going to be a senior. You want to see him making the smart throw, not the hardest throw. And when you got a 6'4" sophomore to be in Jalen Green like that, you throw it where nobody else can get it, but only he can get it. And, there's a reason that Jalen Green is already with an offer before he finishes his freshman year in high school. He's got some explosiveness. He's got some athleticism. He's got great length and hands, goes up the ladder, makes that catch. And I think that's exactly what Rainier Beach is going to need this year because they lost so much talent. They need those young kids that came in last year after they made the state championship game run the year before. They needed those guys to get them there.
Now they're going for the extra point. And there it's going to be intercepted.
That's not what you want to see from your senior quarterback to be.
That one just ill-timed, but, that's guess why you're out here working out the bugs. Now I want to ask you, in a recruiting aspect, how much interest does this draw from college recruiters coming out?
That's a great question because the easy answer is to say none, but that's not true. You'll see guys that they don't have extensive varsity film. They don't have a lot of film in pads, but they've had good 7-on-7. You're able to see, can these guys run routes? What do they look like physically? How is their speed? Is their ability to run? And it's not unusual to see a couple guys have a really good tournament where coaches weren't at, and then word of mouth hits, and they end up getting an offer despite their film not having changed in 3 or 4 months. So, colleges are hosting high school 7-on-7s next weekend. The University of Washington's hosting a 7-on-7. Many of the teams we're seeing today will be there with their high school teams inside Husky Stadium working out in front of the UW coaching staff. So there still is value in it because you're just getting to see the explosiveness, you're getting to see the athleticism, you're getting to see guys' length, you're getting to see their competitiveness. Guys that, are they playing through some injuries or some guys just trying to self-preserve at this point?
And I imagine, too, is playing against the top athletes in the state is a good way to gauge just how good these players are. So we know that in various leagues throughout the state, you could have somebody be a superstar in the league, but if the league is maybe not as strong as some others, maybe that player who's a star there, maybe is not a star in like the Metro or a Kingco League.
Sure, and that's where you kind of get the neutralizer here. It's like, okay, we're getting to see you against like talent. You're getting locked up by a receiver, by a corner when you're playing receiver. So you're getting to really see, does it translate against top-end talent? And I think the other thing, and just kind of say when you have some guys that maybe they don't have extensive film, I think a perfect example, I just saw his mother walk by, Lincoln Victor. He was the Washington State 4A Player of the Year this last season, led Union to a state championship. He's going to college to play receiver, but he was a quarterback for Union. Last year, all spring, he played receiver at some of the biggest tournaments in the country. He was playing receiver, and that's what the University of Hawaii is bringing him in at. They saw his ability to run routes in 7-on-7 and know that he can play receiver at the collegiate level.
All right, that looks like that is a touchdown for Lincoln, so we're all tied up.
One of the great things, too, about the travel 7-on-7 circuit is when you get guys that are playing with their high school teammates on that circuit. Right there, you just saw Caden Filer find Josiah Snow Marshall in the front part of the end zone. Those two have been throwing the ball to each other really for the last 2 years, every weekend at off-season tournaments, playing on the same travel 7-on-7 team. So I know that Coach Matsumoto is loving the fact that these guys are coming back to campus with a lot of reps between the two. Their timing's there, their chemistry's there, and you see it translate onto the field. They know where each other are at all times.
Well, I can say this is fast-paced. Now, if you're a quarterback with this, how much of a game plan do you have? As the coaches and bring it into the quarterback and the routes, and how much is it? You go take a left at the line and turn around and do a little button hook.
There's definitely a schoolyard feel to this. Like, oh, we're going to try. No, never mind. We're going to just run this. You run far, I'll throw it to you.
And there's a nice pass and completion. Boy, looking at these youngsters here, they're all high school kids. But boy, with high school, you have some guys that look like they're ready to play for the Huskies, and then you've got some more diminutive size fellas who are just youngsters
playing for the junior Huskies.
There you go.
And that's what's always fascinating. Like, look at Julian Simon, for instance. Here he is playing linebacker in the slot right here. I mean, he's had a beard since he was an 8th grader, and a guy that he's got 2 more years of high school football left to play. And he looks like he could suit up on Saturdays. And then you got guys on his own team that look like you're in high school. Wait, you're going to be a senior in high school? and usually at that level, the guys that are the men, you could separate those from the boys at times. And you're like, you're different. You're built different than those guys. You're going to have a long football career. Right. It's no coincidence that Julian Simon is one of the premier players in the United States in his class.
But this 7-on-7 at least gives some of the little guys, they can be a star, at least in this non-hitting league.
And you called it. Look right there. You had to see the smallest guy on the field. The slot receiver for Rainier Beach makes that grab right there, and I think he just snuck into the front part of the end zone. Not the biggest guy in the world, but he is one of the fastest guys in the world because he was a national champion last year in the 100, 200 for the 8th grade class in the United States.
So he's just a freshman. It always amazes me, when we see the freshmen come in calling high school sports, how much growth from a freshman to the senior. You always figure you probably about 2 to 3 inches, 20, 30 pounds. And the football players maybe even make that more. Yeah,
and it's fascinating because JT Tumaloa, we talked about him quite a bit, the #1 player in the country. He just turned 16 about 2 weeks ago. He wasn't allowed to lift weights until he turned 16.
Well, there's a long bomb and a tying touchdown, so this teams are just trading off scores.
We talked about Jalen Clark earlier. He's got that versatility. He's had a great offseason. First play, Caden Filer finds him up top 4, touchdown. And that's a kid that I think could end up being a linebacker in college with that length, could play corner. But, again, you're seeing guys playing 3 or 4 positions in these games. Just, coach, get me out on the field. Let me make a play.
And, one thing I've noticed, calling high school sports, the percentage that I see, I'm usually up in Wesco, calling Stanwood games and Arlington games, the players that I'm going to see that are going to be, prospects into a major college system, I might see 1 or 2 a year, and I might see 15 teams throughout the season, but only 1 or 2 of them are going to make it onto a major college. Maybe a couple will make the Division II. And here with the 7-on-7, you're loaded. You're looking at the top cream of the crop.
I mean, you have some teams that have 10 guys on their roster with FBS offers just from the skill position players.
And that is it. First game is in the books. And looks like Lincoln came up with the win. So one in the books, and hey, thank you very much, Dan, and Brandon. Yeah. And we'll see you here at the top of the hour, and we've got coming up Union and Sumner.
Speaking of grudge matches, looking forward to that one.
That should be really good. All right, you are watching the 7 versus 7 state championships here on STSPN.